What is happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video with your boy Thick Whips. This is one of the most common questions that I'm getting from you guys on a routine basis. John, what did you do with your 340? Did you sell the 340? And if so, why? So today I'm going to give you guys that answer and talk to you a little bit about why I decided to sell the 340. So I don't blame you guys for having a lot of questions about where the 340 is or why I decided to get rid of it, because I did not actually make a I sold the 340 type of video. Basically, when I decided to pick up the M4 GTS, at the same time I got rid of the 340, and all of that happened really fast. In fact, it happened so quick that I didn't take anything off of the car. I sold it as is with all of the modifications. But the main reason, you guys, that I got rid of the 340 is because I bought the M4 GTS. I decided to level up. I was given an opportunity to buy this car and it just made sense. You know, at the time I really wasn't looking to get into a new car, but this one sort of just fell into my lap, and I had always wanted to try out the S55 platform. I just didn't really ever think that I'd have the opportunity to get into a car like an M4 GTS because it is such a special and rare car. There were only 300 of these M4 GTSs brought over to the USA. You have to assume that some of those have been totaled, so who knows what it's at. I would guess maybe mid 2s, high 200s. So it is a rather special and rare car. With that being said, these cars MSRP'd at about $135,000, $140,000 when they were first released by BMW. However, I was able to get my hands on one through a friend of mine who owned a dealership for a really good price. A price that was so good that I sort of felt like it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a car of this value and rarity without having to pay a ton of money. So the story goes, I actually took this car out for a review video that I do for Alta Auto Group. I do a bunch of different reviews on their cars, help them out with marketing every now and then. And in the beginning, I just thought that this was gonna be like any other M4 F80 video. I really didn't think it would be that interesting of a car, but for some reason, this car really spoke to me and I just decided that I had to have it. So the owner of Alta and I worked out a deal and it just made sense. Now, part of that deal was giving him the 340, was basically just selling him the 340 that I had the exact way that it was. Most dealerships wouldn't want a car like that. They would actually want it to be stock, but Alta Auto Group is a little bit different. They sell like specialized cars, modified cars, just a wide variety of BMWs and supercars, and a lot of them have been modified. So their whole concept as a dealership is just a bit more unique than your average dealership. Typically though, if I were to sell a BMW, it's always gonna be better to just sell the car stock and then try and recoup any funds that you can by selling the modifications separately. That's why I never sell my OEM parts. But for this deal to work, they wanted the car with all of the modifications as is. So I really had no time and couldn't take anything off of the car. So right now with the space that I have, I only have 2 garage spaces. I don't have enough room to just buy a bunch of cars and keep them as much as I would love to. Just not at that point in life yet. So I try to have one older project car continually that I'm working on, and then some sort of newer car that I can have in the garage. And at the time, the F30 was that newer car. It was a 2016 B58 340 all-wheel drive. And my M4 GTS is also a 2016, obviously S55 powered BMW M4 GTS. So I knew if I was gonna bring this one home, the 340 was likely gonna have to be the one to take the hit. I don't really feel like I was completely done modifying or just going along with the journey of the 340 build. If you know the whole story of that build, a lot of things happened while I owned that car, including losing an engine based on a little piece of metal that decided to make its way into cylinder 3. So I actually replaced the engine in that car, and it had an engine with 3,000 miles on it when I sold the car. It was basically a brand new motor. We also did extensive work to the exterior of that car. The paint was really, really nice on that car, almost immaculate. Completely brought it back to life. Entire front end PPF, whole car ceramic coated. That's basically something that I do with all of my cars. And then we went down the road of modifying the car. It had the Dynamic AutoWorks Flowmax 2.5 plus turbo, I want to say it was, and it was making 620 wheel horsepower on an E50 blend tune by CD919 off of the MHD platform here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a fast car. Like, that thing moved for a B58, a 340 sedan car. I didn't really get to push the car, I guess, as hard as I would have wanted to. Like, if I had owned the car longer, I would have done some more like roll racing with my friends just to see how it would stack up against other cars. Technically, that car made the most power out of any of the cars that I've built on this channel yet, at about 620 wheel horsepower, which really isn't that much power by today's standards, because there's cars out there just making so much horsepower, especially in my area. But it was making really good power, and it felt great, man. You would drive that thing, it was completely solid. The tune was very, very smooth. You could drive that car daily, no issues. And then you could even just go out and run it, and it was so fast. It was mind-blowingly quick for the amount of work that we did to it in terms of performance. We really didn't have to do that much. It was still on direct injection. All I did was upgrade the high pressure fuel pump to a Dorch Stage 2, all of the basic bolt-ons, catless downpipe, exhaust, intake, charge pipe, and then just the hybrid turbo and a nice E50 blend tune, and that thing was scooting. That is one of the reasons that I really like the B58, is because you can get things done pretty efficiently, pretty quick, and without spending a ton of money. It's a really good platform, I think, for anyone who's not trying to spend a lot of money but get the most bang for the buck out of the performance of their BMW. I paid $28,000 for that car, which is actually on the cheaper side. Now, it wasn't a perfect condition 340. I had to do a lot of work to get it to the point where it was at, but that's sort of the stuff that I love to do. Obviously, that's part of my job, and you can buy them in the 30s. I found a few of them in like low 30s that had 50 to 60,000 miles on it. Mine had about 65,000 miles on it at the time. And so I think that, you know, for people who can afford a $30,000 BMW, that is definitely one of the best ways to go. We are starting to see some of the F8X, like 2015 models, dip into the 30s, low 30s, mid 30s. But depending on what you're looking to achieve, and depending on what type of driver you are and how much money you really want to sink into the car, the 340 might be the better option for you. With the F8X platform comes the F8X M tax. I mean, everything is a little bit more expensive. Maintenance is more expensive. Modifications are more expensive. You can make great power, and they're an entirely different experience to drive compared to like a base model 3 Series. But if you're just looking for really, really good power and like a daily drivable car, the B58 powered platforms are just, in my opinion, some of the best performance for the dollar. So really what it boiled down to for me was, you know, kind of being given an opportunity to own this rare M4 GTS, not having enough space to just keep a bunch of cars, and just coming across an opportunity that made sense at that point in my life. And that's why I went for the M4 GTS. The way I sort of saw it was, I can always buy another 340. They're sort of a dime a dozen at this point, and there's so many different platforms that run the B58 engine. But with the M4 GTS, I just felt like it was so rare and unique that given the opportunity, it just made sense. Even though I understand from like a subscriber's point of view, this might not be the best car to make content on, because it can feel a bit unattainable to some people, which is always something that I try to consider when buying cars on this channel. You're trying to relate to as many people as possible. You know, if you're out there modifying an M4 GTS, it's not like everyone's going to be interested in that, because let's face it, people want to see things that are not super expensive, but they can easily afford and have a bit of fun with. So that was kind of why I bought the E82, the 135. I felt like that would be a little bit more attainable for people. And the N54 just has such a huge following when it comes to that engine that I felt like that would be another good one to add to the garage. However, if you are a content creator or just someone looking to, you know, get into the BMW platform, the B58, any of the B58 models, you know, the 2 Series, the Supra, the 340s. These are all really, really good cars to start out with, especially if you're just trying to get your feet wet with modifying BMWs, because you can really just add some simple modifications to the car and you're competing with a lot of very, very high horsepower cars out on the road. Now, I will say, if handling is more important to you, if you are looking to have a car that just feels great when you're driving it into the corners or canyons or track days, you are definitely going to want to go with an M car. So it really just depends on what you're interested in. I made an entire video kind of talking about these points, and I'll link it up here if you guys want to check it out. So my 340, I ended up paying $28,000. I ended up selling that car for $43,000. With all things considered, because you guys have to remember that I did replace the motor in that car. That engine was going for about $12,000 at the time. Straight Six Auto Group hooked me up, and I ended up getting that motor for $7,000 shipped to the shop. And then we threw that into the 340 and we were back on the road within just a few weeks. But then you have to consider all the things that we put on the car, which I would figure is probably about $10,000 or so. But you also have to remember that this is part of my job, and these videos will make me money for life. As soon as I post them and I monetize them, people are watching them from that moment forward, and I'm making ad revenue off of the views. So you could say, straight from, you know, what I bought the car for and all the modifications that went into it and then replacing the motor, just comparing those numbers, technically I lost out on the car a few $1,000s. But you also have to remember that I do have partnerships as well, so a lot of people pitched in and helped me with modifications. Sometimes I pay cost, sometimes I don't pay anything, but that's just me being transparent with you guys, and that's just like the nature of my business, because I help market those parts for them, I help sell those parts for them. Sometimes I make a commission, and in return they will supply me with the parts for the builds. But nonetheless, you guys, that is the full story of the 340. Bought it for 28, sold it for 43, came across a really good opportunity to own a car that, in my opinion, is very special. And you guys probably already know that this is not going to be a forever car for me. You guys see me going through a lot of cars, and that's just me trying new things out and seeing what I like. And I think that that's okay. I get a lot of people who get upset because I get rid of cars. Sometimes I don't keep them as long as they would want me to, but you also have to remember that at the end of the day, if I don't love the car and I find something else that I really have wanted to try and I don't have the means to keep all of the cars, I'm gonna move on to a new platform and try something else, because I think that that is one of the beauties of being able to do what I do as a content creator for a living. Never in my life, when I was making videos on a 328, did I think that I would be able to have an M4 GTS. That's just not something that was attainable in my mind. And here we are 4 years and some change later, and I have one in the garage. And that just goes to show you that sometimes you need to make decisions that best suit you and not so much what other people expect from you. I think life is too short to just own and experience one car, one or two cars. If you feel like you've gotten your fix out of the certain car that you've had and a better opportunity comes along, then why not try it out? The worst thing that happens is you don't like the new car that you get, and you can go buy another version of the one that you owned before. None of these cars are irreplaceable, and that's something that I've learned over time after owning a lot of different cars and building a lot of different cars. You'll have cars that you love, you'll have cars that you didn't love, you'll have cars that you miss, and you'll have cars that you don't miss. But at the end of the day, life is too short to not allow yourself, if you can afford it and if you have the means for it, to own the cars that you've dreamed of. If that opportunity comes along, you should take it. I know a lot of times in the car community, especially in the BMW community, some people will give you a lot of pushback if you don't keep a car for a long time. They feel like you don't care about the platform, they feel like you're not a real enthusiast, or they feel like you're just a complete moron for making the biggest mistake of your life. But again, at the end of the day, you've got to do what you feel is best for yourself, and try not to let those outside opinions dictate the decisions that you feel like you need to make. So I guess the final question is, will I ever own another 340 or B58 powered car again? Absolutely I will. I still think that the B58 is one of the best platforms to own, especially if you're someone like me. If you are a creator, I think that getting into the B58 world, no matter how you do it, no matter which chassis it is a very smart move from a marketing perspective, a video perspective, and just an enthusiast perspective. You'll be able to take that car very far without spending a ton of money, and the honest truth is people just love to watch B58 content. The B58 crowd is a very loyal but opinionated crowd, which is a good thing for anyone who is looking to make content on a B58 powered car. There's going to be a ton of aftermarket support, a lot lot of feedback, a lot of people who have experience building these cars, and I think overall it's just one of the best introductory platforms to get into, especially if you are a BMW enthusiast. So yes, we will have another B58 at some point in the future on this channel. What will the chassis be? I don't know yet. Will it be a 340? Probably not, if I'm being entirely honest. I still really think that the new M240 with the all-wheel drive would be a great car to own, but a part of me still really likes the Supras. I would like to try the manual version. However, you know, I got into a Supra the other day, and man, I almost forgot how small those cars are. I'm so used to my M4. I'm 6'2", I'm 190 pounds. Like, it is not easy driving a Supra. There is a ton of blind spots, and it reminded me almost immediately the quirks of that car that I just did not love so much. Other than that, performance-wise and look-wise, I think the Supra is amazing. It's just a very, very small car if you are a bigger guy. Nonetheless, at some point, we'll get a B58 back on the channel for you guys. But I hope this answered some questions, you guys. Yeah, I don't have the 340 anymore. I did get rid of it, unfortunately, to bring in the M4 GTS. In my opinion, a good decision. Maybe not a decision that everybody would agree with, but again, this is one of those things, you're never gonna please everyone. You just gotta do what you feel is right at the time and kind of go with your gut. And if it doesn't work out, then change it up. Not the end of the world. Anyways, guys, if you have any other questions for me, make sure you hit me up on Instagram. If I feel like it's a good question that I can answer on video, I will do my best to answer it and make a video on it. But just like that, we're gonna wrap this up. See you in the next one. Peace.